Hey everyone, we're pumped to be able to share an exclusive trailer with you after the show. From Blue Wire Studios comes Golden Goal, Stories of Soccer Legends. Narrated by fellow Blue Wire host Brandon Kelly, each Monday 2 new episodes will take a look into some of soccer's biggest stars and the moments that define their careers. From Holland, Zlatan, Messi, Rapinoe, and many more, each episode will focus on the historical plays and personalities that make the sport great. So stay tuned after the episode and listen to Golden Goal, Stories of Soccer Legends, wherever you find your podcasts. Hey! Oh man! Oh, that did not work out. The mouth wet did not take. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode number 45 of Little Legends podcast. Woo! I crackled out early there. I'm getting old.
Yeah, man. Yeah, all those cigarettes. Now that you're 30,
I know. I need to start smoking so that I can quit smoking. Man.
Exactly.
I am your host. Blevins with me as always is Boop. What's up, buddy?
What's up?
Oh man,
it's been a week, huh? It's been a
Yes,
couple weeks
ma'am.
since I last saw you. Maybe let's next time try a little bit more. But I'm liking I like the 2-week thing because we did something special last week with Fight Night. Instead of having a podcast in lieu of a podcast, we hung out with some friends instead.
Yes, we did, and I now don't worry, podcast listeners in chat. I realized that I was double speaking before, so it's okay. We're not anymore. Don't worry about it. Yes, did a fight night on Tuesday instead. Boop and I are, it's not a bad thing, but we're busy these days, Boop.
Yeah, man.
We're getting booked for stuff.
Yeah, it's just like one of those like hashtag kind of in your face brags, but we've been working really hard, and I'm really proud of how far we've come in just even the 45 episodes of this podcast, from like the beginning, from straight up begging, for opportunities, right?
Yeah.
To actually, being a part of the conversations and being a part of the communities, casting Fight Night Rising. You're doing the Legends of Runeterra stuff, with Cruise and all these other things that are on tap, and it's been a wonderful ride. And we have to thank all of you guys for helping us along the way, because we could not have gotten here without the support of our wonderful, wonderful community.
True. It absolutely is in large part due to the community, because it's what keeps us coming back, right? Like, yes, the game is great and we enjoy playing it, we enjoy covering it, but the community is what I think is the real special part about Little Legends, for sure. So for the time being, we'll be doing every other week for the podcast itself, and I know it's not the perfect solution. I know a lot of folks I had a couple of people be a little bummed because they're like, oh well, I've got my normal commute is gonna be Blevins list and Boop list, and I said you're welcome, but in all seriousness,
you're gonna be so much more focused when you
I know
it's gonna be so weird.
You're gonna feel so refreshed. It's gonna be great for you. But I think just given the nature of TFT right now, and the fact that we love doing our deep dive talks and whatnot, and we'll certainly be having those, but let's be honest, there's not a ton of news about the game going on a week-to-week basis. It's very much bi-weekly, so we're going to do that, and then on the off weeks we're going to be doing game nights on Tuesday.
Or we might do like a little like episodic thing instead of having like a full 1.5 hour podcast. It'll be like a 20-30 minute kind of pontification on meta and staleness,
podtification,
or something, a soliloquy of some sort. It's a little bit more short form content, which is always good. And you can also listen to that on your drive. Hopefully, we just got to get kind of like the standard rate going, but right now it's going to be 1 week on, 1 week off. It is because we have picked up a good amount of work on both sides, just TFT and personal related, and to sustain what a quality that we are proud of. We believe that this is the best way of doing just that. So these episodes might end up being longer in the end, but when there's something awesome to talk about, that's when we'll do our short episodic content for off weeks and make sure that we still do a game night, because Fridays are going to be tough for both of us, I think, moving forward.
Yeah. So we'll certainly keep y'all's in the loop, and the best way to stay in the loop, besides listening to the show, obviously, every week, is to go to discord.me/Little Legends Podcast. Trying to keep everyone up to date and informed there. It's also where we're doing the game nights, of course, and where you can stay in touch. So, well, now that we've got that out of the way, of course, everyone knows we're a prediction esports podcast, PREEDICTION esports on Spotify and iTunes. Make sure you're checking out that feed. It really does help us out a ton. Again, go to the Discord. It is the best place to go to be for updates and just playing. Honestly, we've said it before, and I just want to reiterate it. If you want to use the Discord to try to organize, even if it's not a game night, if it's just a, hey, anyone looking to play some games tonight, feel free to use the Discord, use the voice channels in there. It is just as much yours as it is ours.
You know what it reminds me of? So when I used to be a preschool teacher, it's required to have like certain aspects of the room. Like we need to have a block area and like a drawing area. And it's like no one is using the block area right now for some reason, right? And blocks are freaking awesome. So like go ahead and go ahead and play around. Our friends, don't be crazy. Don't be dumb, and then we'll be good.
Well, you can be crazy and dumb. Just be
crazy.
respectful of each other is what I think the blanket statement of it is. But we haven't had any issues with that. But just so it really goes without saying, even though we both said it. So, I think that's all we had for housekeeping. Let's talk about our weeks in TFT. Boop, you are becoming a bit of the celebrity in the TFT world, casting every week now.
Shut up. I mean, that'd be cool. I mean, I won't say no to that, but there's a little bit more of a way to go. It's been really awesome to kind of get that weekly kind of exposure to like the same people in chat and kind of like really see who's around, who like the real champions of TFT are, and just how awesome that community is. It's so great. I've gotten to cast with Crowan and X-Scoundrel, two very different casters that are good at actually similar things, which is really interesting. They both have a really cool head for the game, and I wasn't super stoked about my cast last week with X-Scoundrel. I ended up getting like really sick like right after it, and it was so funny because during it I told him, I was like, man, there is something going on with my head. Like I just don't feel all there, right? And well, more so than usual.
I was gonna say that kind of sounds par for the course, but I wasn't
exactly, because I'm pretty much functioning max at a 98%, right? That extra 2% is total wild card, and unfortunately, I dive into a wild card a little bit much, like making stupid mistakes. But I'm excited to get another run at it. It's just gonna get better, just like with Crowan. I think every week got better, so we'll keep on keeping on. But it's been cool because it's been European based over the last couple weeks, and that's been something that we don't really see. I mean, and the other cool thing about it too is for Fight Night Rising EU, our winner this last week actually got last place in a lobby. So
interesting.
Yeah, it was the first time that I had seen that. It was like 8-1-6 something in terms of points. But yeah, someone who placed last in the lobby ended up winning the whole thing. And he actually messaged me and was like, "Oh yeah, so for things next week, I'm pretty sure I'm the worst player. We'll see if I can luck into the victory again." But he's a fellow caster. I found out, so like I understand the hubris, but you know he still won. Like that's gotta say something, right? Sometimes it's not a fluke. Sometimes it's because you're good. And I'm really excited to keep going. Tons of stuff coming up though, with Twitch rivals, with Team Liquid events that are going to continue to roll. Cloud9's doing some stuff. We're finally getting like an actual ecosystem. It's great.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy, and we'll be talking about at least a handful of those tournaments in just a second here. But I was watching Mort Dog stream over the weekend, and people in chat people in Mort Dog's chat are, I'll say it because I mean sometimes Mort at least hints at it, but I'll just say it outright. People in Mort Dog's chat are just outwardly annoying, like with the like. Not even just the least thought out questions whatsoever. Because like if you haven't checked out a Mort Dog stream, I definitely suggest it. Just to get, it's really cool to get that sort of lens into the mind of, someone who's so pivotal in this game, and watching him actually play and how he makes decisions. And he's super, super informative. He's also, I think to his own fault, always on top of chat and answering questions, like non-stop.
I remember there was one time where I was listening in. I'm a lurker when it comes to Twitch. Like I never participate in chat. And I remember like someone asked something, and he was just like, I think like getting that question a lot, and he was just like, that's just a bad idea.
Yeah.
That's all. Right? But he gave everyone an answer and acknowledged a lot of those questions except mine, but maybe it was because I was stupid.
Yeah, it's I mean, so he's gotten quite big in terms of streams now. So his awesome. Chat is going.
Honestly, it's
fast.
awesome to see someone with kids, our age, like finding that kind of success in this world. You got to represent, for all of our boomers.
Mort is older than us. Okay, let's. I'm willing to call us old, but there's a limit that needs to be drawn.
Oh my God.
I'm gonna get hate mail from Mort Dog. No, but
excuse me. We've created a deck of all the hate mail that we've wanted to send to you.
Yes,
we're just gonna give it all to you at once.
Yeah, Oh, you meant a slide deck. I was thinking a deck of cards and like. And I cast all of the hate mail on you, Yugi. Okay, so. I had a point that I was getting to. I sure did have a point.
Chat.
Mort Dog's chat. People asking Mort Dog questions in chat. Oh, people asking. People are asking like, when is TFT competitive starting? And Mort Dog was like, it already has, and it's not just the Team Liquid tournament and the Cloud9 tournament that are happening with that are actually like Riot produced. It's the Giant Slayer events. It's the Cruise Invitational events. It's the other weekly events that we don't even hear about or see because they're not every single competitive TFT event or the tournament is being cast because it's not always about casting. Sometimes it's just about finding players. You look at like high school traditional sports. AAU for basketball is something I'm familiar with. That stuff's not broadcast, right? Like your random high school games aren't broadcast. It's not always about the broadcast. Obviously, that's what Boop and I are very in tune to because, we want to be casting those events and also watching them and reporting on them and talking about them on the show. But there are a number of events that I see pop up that are just like, hey, this is a $100 cup this weekend that's running. It's the first 128 people that join can get in and play for it. So the ecosystem is slowly getting there. The problem is that a lot of people are like, oh, when's competitive starting? And by that, what I actually mean is when is Riot focused or Riot run competitive starting? And what I really mean by that, and by I of course mean the random people in chat, what they really mean is when is the LCS for TFT starting? And it's like, we've talked ad nauseum on multiple episodes before about how that's a flawed premise, how if that's what your goal is and that's what you're expecting, temper those expectations right the fuck now, because it's not going to happen. And if Riot was trying to do that, I think it's a fool's errand to do that. So
that same person would like give their Big Mac back and be like, I ordered this medium.
Yes. Exactly.
And you're just like, what?
I
Sir, we're at a McDonald's.
no, I try to sympathize with people in chat because I think back to it and it's like not everyone is as in tune to the ecosystem as I am, or that we are, or that the people listening to this podcast are, because we're obviously, by the nature of what we're doing and listening to and the content we're consuming, we're very tapped into what's going on. We're likely very familiar with what Riot is doing, what esports is, and I try to think about it from the perspective of someone who maybe hasn't been following esports for years. Maybe this is one of their first streams that they're tuning into. Maybe they're just like 13 years old and they don't get stuff. Like literally, that is a legitimate possibility. And I try, even when people are trolling or being mean-spirited with things, I try to think of it from the lens of the, objectively dumb thing they just asked was coming from a good place, potentially. But a lot of times, dumb.
Yeah, I don't know. There was a pretty awful event that happened last week, which was the suicide of Reckful.
Yes.
Right, and I don't know, and I bring this up because I think it's kind of up to us to really walk the walk when it comes to this stuff. Someone analyzed all of the messages that he had received. He had. Did you see this article?
I saw that it was posted, and I glanced at it.
So it was by Ethan Spector, BZ on Twitter. If you want to check it out, it's actually really fascinating. But basically, he looked up all the separate instances of people telling him to kill himself. Right, someone who was open and honest about his struggles with depression and suicidal thoughts, and there were hundreds of messages, like things that were awful that people were just saying behind the keyboard. Right? So I only bring that up because it's like I want to, provide a space where people can, say, what they want, but there is a line, and we have to make sure that when we're interacting with people online, whether it be Mort, whether it be Becca, whether it be somebody else, that we understand that there's a person there too. They're not there just for us to consume as entertainment, right? And it really dehumanizes a person when they're consistently treated that way. So if you are maybe one of those people that might get a little, spicy in the chat, a little too spicy, that might cross that line, just know that like we read those things, and if it's like one off, that's fine. But if it happens over and over again, then it can get frustrating, and that's how we end up getting maybe some, we don't want there ever to be a point where someone feels out of control of the situation. And it's just kind of like my call to say, if you are interacting with someone online, you have to make sure that it is in a way that is mutually beneficial for everybody, right? It's beneficial for them because you're there and you're watching, and that's really good for their brand. But in the end, right, if we want to be a community, we have to act like it. We're not here to be used. We're not here to be objects, right? And it's time to change. And it's just, I thought that was a good segue based off of what you were saying. It's just like people don't think about what they say. We spend so much effort as casters and personalities and online personalities trying the best we can and doing the best we can. And there's nothing worse than putting your everything out there and then seeing someone online just be like, kill yourself, your voice is annoying. Right? Which is something that I've gotten. So like there are people, for me, that certain situation, it is something that I could brush off, but it definitely starts getting heavy. And it's just kind of a call to action that things need to change, right? If you're one of those people and you've done it before, we can still change that. But that's not going to fly in any sort of community that I see in any TFT stream that I'm a part of. So that's just my 2 cents. I thought it would be good for us to kind of mention that regardless.
Yeah, it's definitely, I mean, it's definitely a separate conversation, but like, just don't be an asshole online.
Yeah. I mean, your words do have an effect, and it might be online, or maybe we need to quote unquote grow thick skin, or maybe you just don't have to be an asshole. Right. So, I think it's important to talk about these things, especially since, he was a part of our community, And I grew up with them. I mean, I remember watching them on Justin TV. So it was tough, but in the end, I think what we can do is in the spirit of Byron to hold ourselves to a really high standard and really take care of ourselves and our mental health, because that's what he wanted. So that's my call to action to everybody, is to kind of follow in that in those footsteps.
Yep. It's over the years, trolling is I want to put this out there. I'm all for trolling, but it's gotta be, there's a fine line to walk, and you need to know. It's the same thing with comedy in general. You need to know your audience. You need to know, like, there are lines. People say, "Oh, well, you're censoring me." It's like, well, it's not really censoring. It's just what you said wasn't funny. And what you said, like, the situation didn't call for what you said, right? So if something is funny, it can be, air quotes, offensive. That I'm fine with, but there's a certain line where it's like, that's just not a funny. It's not a funny joke. So without going down too deep into that, just don't be an asshole, please.
Don't be an asshole.
So that is tangentially related to what I was talking about. And
Sorry.
no, it's okay. It's definitely important, and I this isn't even for any particular reason for anyone in the community, in our community, because I haven't seen any of that. So that's been really good. You guys have been really good, and we just want to make sure that stays that way, and that
saying it to say it situation.
For the folks that are here now, you all are awesome, and when new people come in, we can be just that much more welcoming to the new folks that come in. I was more on the side of, like, people are just asking stupid questions because they're not thinking about it. Not necessarily offensive questions, they're just dumb. It's like, well, where's TFT competitive? It's like, well, open your fucking eyes, dude.
When are we getting Teemo?
When set 3 come out? Like, that was one that was so funny for me, because Mort was getting, because it's like, it was so easy to figure out when it was coming out. And like, people do this now. It's like, when set 4 coming out, it's like, look at the fucking battle pass. It has a number of days left. And like, it's just so funny because it's so easy to figure out, and people keep asking, like, unironically. But okay, enough of that. Enough of me calling out, chat. You all know who you are. Just look at how many days are left in the fucking battle pass. It's not that hard to figure out. And also, if you're wondering where the TFT competitive scene is, let me point you to the tournaments that we're about to talk about. The first of which is the Giant Slayer EU Cup, which they just announced. You can go to at Giant Slayer TFT to get more details. But I believe they're doing a bunch of different teams. I saw there was a Team Germany.
Mm-hmm. The German team got announced.
Yeah,
so it's a little World Cuppy, but like no, it's what is the UEFA for the soccer league, like the European.
You're asking the wrong person.
Is it just
soccer.
FIFA? No, FIFA's the whole thing. But
FIFA,
what is, like, the European...
only thing I know about FIFA is that it is one of the most corrupt organizations of all time. That's all I know.
There's a whole movie about it. 2 movies about it. One much better than the other. But the moral of the story is, it's going to be really cool to kind of just see the regional things blossom, because that's the thing about esports, is it has been very region based, like, ever since its inception, right? South American players are good at and love certain kinds of games, where Korean players have always really liked, well, they're good at everything, right? And so they're like the gold standard, versus different play styles too. That's like the one thing that I really noticed, was even in the European Fight Night Rising, there was a definite difference in pace in how they played versus what I was used to in NA. And even though they were making the same decisions, the way they were approaching them was just a little different. You know what I mean? And I can't wait to kind of see all of that in one lobby. Like, because we've heard that the Chinese meta is hyper aggressive. And can actually change. I mean, like, I think of Chinese Dota in that way, where they would literally just be so aggressive. It's kind of like that chess move that's put the game state into something that no one has seen to even it up. Right? It's just, if you are that aggressive, then you're going to have to react. And if you react well, you win. If not, you're going to get rolled. Right? That's just the feast or famine of that play style.
Yep.
And I'd love to see a little bit more of that. For example, like people playing Trade Sector or Nicoverse, super aggressively or passively, right? With the new dwarf planet, what team comps are we even going to see with the first the back and front row being banned out? So I'm really excited to see how they actually come out, and if certain regions are going to be good at certain galaxies, right? That was like another thing that I thought about.
That's interesting.
Yeah, just based off of playstyle, because when I was talking with Crone, apparently there are players that are just kind of treasure trove, trade sector, galactic
armory.
Some of like the faster galaxies they're better at versus some of the slower galaxies. Certain players are starting to fall into certain kind of not like once, like they just normally lean that way, right? So they're better at it, and that's going to matter when it comes to tournament play coming up. Right? Say we get 3 aggressive galaxies, someone like Crowan might actually have a harder time.
Right. Yeah, it's super interesting, and we've talked about this on I think a couple episodes before about how like a game like at first glance it doesn't really make sense to think that European players would play differently than North American players who would play differently than Asian players. When you think about it, because it's the same game, right? It's not like the server you're on makes something about the game different. It's the same game. But we talked about this before, and like different reasons why that happens, and like even in the like the older days for Magic the Gathering, it's like the Japanese like crew of pro players, they always would come up with some crazy thing. It was usually like a weird control deck, and it would like, and then when it comes out, it's like, and then everyone's exposed to it and starts playing it. But it's like, where does this come from? The cards are all the same, right? The game is exactly the same in both places, but you come to different
conclusions. The way you think about it.
It's really it's super fascinating to me to see those regional differences. So this is an event that will really focus on that.
It happens in every genre. Yeah. It's not just FPSs or card games, right? It's very similar to some other like Olympic sports like hockey, right? The Russians and the Americans play just differently. It's the same game. Right? Or even something like tennis, right? One-handed versus two-handed backhand. Right? It's the same racket. But but might actually have different kinds of things happen. And so that's what's really exciting about incorporating a lot of this regional play. I'm really excited for the top 4 Mort Dog Invitational, because for some reason the image I have is just literally everyone is Mort Dog.
Oh, you see, I had a different image of like Mort Dog is like Shao Kahn in Mortal Kombat, just like sitting up atop the throne and watching watching all of these lobbies play. Like he's in the middle of the kingdom on top of the tower, just like with on the throne, just looking at all these players playing, like, yes, Gunmei, Crowan, finish him, yeah. Like I'm just putting this out there, and this is a free tip, by the way. If you can get Mort Dog to record a couple of like whoopsie, like those types of things, like just to play throughout the tournament. I'm just saying, I think it will, or like finish him.
A Mortcon cosplay would be amazing.
Oh my god, it's so easy. How come this is not called Mortal Kombat? I mean, come on, it's so easy.
So easy.
Mortal Kombat. Ah, man, missed opportunity. It's okay. This is why I need to be consulted on naming of tournaments. But it is a really cool event. You actually, I believe, yes, you still can sign up.
Until next week.
Join the Giant Slayer TV Discord. Go to twitter.com/Giant Slayer TFT to find all the details there. But yeah, it's a really cool tournament, and it's called Mort Dog's Top 4 Madness. And the format is first place gets 11 points, second, third, and fourth get 10 points. 5th, 6th, 7th get 0 points, and 8th gets -1. So you're trying not to 8th, And you have two goals. Don't get 8th and then get top 4. So really cool event.
Like, yeah, usually we do like Mario Kart scoring when it comes to TFT.
Right.
This is very different.
It's called a top 4 event for a reason.
Yeah, it's the more dogs top 4. And then it's just like the middle finger with the -1. I think it's hilarious.
Yeah.
I think it's so funny.
It really is. And the last thing we'll talk about with it is really cool. Mort put up the prize money as well as Skara. Mort and Skara teamed up with Giant Slayer to put this tournament on. So really cool community event. It's not a Riot event specifically. Mort is part of it, but not with Riot. So just a little distinction there. But a really cool event. I can't wait to see it happen. But we will certainly be talking about it as it happens, and we'll be talking about the patch as well as the Twitch Rivals event when we come back from the break. There's no shortage of action going on at our exclusive partners, betonline.ag. Sports are slowly making their way back, and BetOnline is leading the way with the best odds and lines for all UFC, NASCAR, boxing, and soccer matches. And if you need even more, they have simulated NFL, NBA, and UFC simulations all day, every day, live on their website. Looking for something else other than sports? BetOnline has hundreds of casino games, poker games, and prop bets to check out. Visit betonline.ag and use the promo code BlueWire for a free welcome bonus. That's one word, BlueWire. BetOnline, your online wagering experts. Welcome back, everyone, from the break. Hope you enjoyed it. We are going to quickly talk about one more event that's coming up because it's kind of a TFT tournament, Boop, but not entirely. It's the Twitch Rivals Spirit Blossom event that's coming up.
It's kind of like the tricathlon is what would it be? No.
Triathlon. The tricathlon, where you have to haul 3 baby cows up a hill.
Oh my god.
3-game event.
Oh my god.
3-game event. TFT, League of Legends, Legends of Runeterra.
It's the tricathlon now. That's just what it is.
The tricathlon.
It is the tricathlon, friends. Regular League of Legends or League of Legends proper. I'm having a hard time now. Legends of Runeterra and Runeterra. Wow.
Legends of Runeterra.
Legends of Runeterra. We got some TFT as well.
Yeah. So I'm not 100% on the format, but from what I can tell, they announced the captain. So I'm assuming captains are actually going to pick their teams. And from what I've been able to gather from people tweeting and Riot people answering questions, each team is playing in all of the games. So it's not like, oh, I'm going to draft a TFT specialist. I'm going to have League of Legends people, and I'm going to have a TFT person. It's like, nope, you have a team of 5 or however big the teams are. I mean, it would have to be at least 5 for League, right? Draft a team of 5, and then all 5 players are playing all 3 games. So, really interesting format for an event, and obviously something we've never seen before. And there's like, the cool thing about it is we get a wide, obviously, swath of participants, but like, there's probably a very small number of people who are actually really good at all 3 games, right? Like there's people who are experts in one and then maybe dabble in the others, or maybe they're even experts in 2 and dabble in the third. But I think mostly it's people who are good at one and then don't even touch the other 2.
Yeah, well, we'll see how it goes, because even amongst the captains, you have to draft towards like their weaknesses and strengths and stuff, because there might be a strategy just to throw one of the 3, right?
Yeah.
And then just build like a super team for Summoner's Rift and just cross your fingers for Legends of Runeterra or something, right? And just ignore one of the 3. That's a legitimate strategy, because I don't know, part of me thinks that that's probably easier than trying to find like a Casa who plays all 3 games.
Right. I'm My thought is, so for me, obviously, I would be like a good Runeterra player and a mediocre TFT player, and then a basically useless LOL player. So like, if I were a captain, I don't know, because I feel like in general, the one that is like, I feel like most people at least have a base understanding of League and have played before, right? Maybe that most, like, I think that's the one that you have to like, you have to have the cutoff for, of like, if you don't know anything about League, you just can't play in this event, right? So I would be complete, I'd be a complete throwaway here. But like,
or you lean into TFT in Legends of Runeterra instead.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I would have.
Summoner's Rift.
I mean, I can play League, I just wouldn't be good at it. So I could probably get carried by that. But like, my thought is like, I feel like there are a number of people who don't even know how to play Legends of Runeterra. And like, if you've played MOBAs before, or like you've played in the MOBA space, like you can pick up League, not at a good level by any means, but like you can know how to play and be there. But like Legends of Runeterra, if you didn't play Magic or Hearthstone or anything before, like you're going into it, you're just completely like, you're going to do nothing, right? I mean, they can give you a deck and like you can just play the cards, but like, I don't know. TFT also, like, I can tell someone pick every chrono unit and like you can get, like, you're not gonna play at a high level. So I don't know. I'm very curious to see like if all of the teams are going to have like these 3-game like superstars, or if it's gonna be a
I think you need
one fiesta.
I think you need at least one, like,
right,
per team, and then everything else will kind of just like fingers crossed and hope, because that's the great equalizer. Legends of Runeterra is the great equalizer here. So
yeah,
we'll figure it out.
Yeah,
it's gonna be fun.
Yeah, it's absolutely gonna be fun. But speaking of fun, Boop, brand new patch 10.14 for
God.
TFT. So we'll start it out like we always do and read their little intro. And we got, welcome, space sorcerers.
No comment.
We're porting over to patch 10.14, where we'll be making some pretty significant changes. Here are the highlights. We're nerfing the Star Guardian trait, but buffing Star Guardian champions themselves. Urgot is getting a, quote, minor rework, and boxes with Nico's help now also contain gold. Last but not least, TFT turned 1 year old last week, and in celebration, we're giving out our special birthday Pengu emotes to anyone who plays a game of TFT this patch. Let's get into it. Okay, Boop. So we're getting a free little Pengu emote. What do you think about emotes, by the way, in TFT and in League? Like, is that are those, they kind of, to me, as someone who doesn't play League and doesn't use really the emote, who uses more of the dances of, they kind of feel useless to me. They kind of feel like a throwaway thing.
9 times out of 10, I would agree, but that 10 time out of 10, when someone like throws up that emote of like the dabbing penguin,
yeah,
right, and like they're about to win or something, and you're like, ooh, I felt that.
Yeah,
that's totally worth it. So
yeah, no, I hear you.
Free, right? And so. I'm sorry, everyone. But the yeah, that's the same. That's like the equivalency of my voice.
Yeah.
But the oh man. Anyway, it's gonna be a very interesting set coming up, because if you go back to the last patch notes, everyone was excited about where the game was. A lot of comps were doing fine, but then all of a sudden, after I think another week, things got stale. Things got really stale.
Got figured out.
For example, here's a crazy statistic for Fight Night Rising. Over the last week, out of all of the top 4s, on all 4 lobbies, at least 2 of them were a Jinx Rebels or Jinx Blasters comp. So
Yep.
hopefully this helps bring in a little bit more variety, and it's not just Cybers, Sorcerer, Riven, and
Right.
Jinx in the top 4 every single time. And I think they're trying to do that. I'm also really stoked about Dwarf Planet.
Yeah.
Which is just the set 1 universe, if you guys are wondering. Yeah, the
Well,
front and back
set
row
one map
are
universe.
the front and back row are disabled, so things like cornering is going to be different.
Yep.
Things like putting your front line, you're not going to be able to just like potentially put your sorcerers all in the back row. You might, but they're going to get damaged a lot quicker, right? So I don't know, man. It's going to be really interesting. I'm assuming Vanguard Mystics will be good on that, just because of they don't suffer from positioning as much.
Right.
Rebels might actually just be not affected because you're all in a pack anyway. Right. But we'll see. I'm actually intrigued because either the only thing it'll affect is corner units and nothing else, right? Or it's going to have its own little meta, and I'm waiting for a galaxy to kind of like have its own little meta. Nicoverse is really close to that. I think Trade Sector is really close to that, but we're not like quite there.
Right. I agree with you. I was thinking that we were going to get like, okay, on so and so galaxy, like you are going to play like a wildly different game, which is not what they wanted, and really what hasn't been what's come about most of these galaxies. But yeah, like you said, Nicoverse kind of feels like you're playing a pretty different game, and this one seems like you're going to be playing a pretty different game as well. But let's jump into it and start with the systems changes, the Nico boxes. Now a blue box with a Nico is now going to give you a Nico plus 2 coins, and a gold box with a Nico is going to give you a Nico plus... it used to give you a Nico plus 3 coins, is now going to give you Nico plus 5 coins. And their comment was, it often punishes your economy when you get a Nico's help from a blue or gold box, especially in the early game. So we're adding gold rewards to those boxes that drop Nico's. Okay, so pretty straightforward there. One of the, people have been complaining about getting Nico's early, and the retort was, well, just use your Nico and get your gold, right? But it's like, it doesn't really feel good. So this feels, obviously it's not really it's a buff to those boxes, but it's like, it's more of a quality of life than anything.
Well, it's just so crazy how like 3 gold matters that much.
Oh yeah.
To this game. That's always been like the craziest thing, is it doesn't feel like just 2 or 5 gold, but it was so important that they put it in the intro. Right. Man, just that's so cool about this game, is just like how little amounts of money and stuff make that those decisions a little bit harder. This next thing about ties, though, is huge. A big thumbs up from me.
Yeah. Ties. Now, your final position in the standings will now be determined once all combat has ended, instead of immediately upon taking lethal damage. Lethal damage will now take players into negative health. Players who are eliminated in the same round will finish in order of least negative health total, and then if negative health is tied, most health in the round prior to elimination. In the unlikely event that both of the previous measures are tied, the final standings for those tied players will be determined randomly. So flip a coin, or roll a 3-sided die, or a 4, whatever, however many ties there are, they'll be determined randomly. So yeah, I think this you no longer have to run away and try to survive for that extra, 10th of a second. It's now you just need to make a better comp and make a stronger comp to try to lose less health when you die, so that you can, if it's tied, you can get a better placement. Overall, having it be like this now just makes me think like, oh, why wasn't it always like this,
Well, it's so funny. We all kind of forget how hard it was for them to just randomize the opponents that you got. Right? Remember how hard that was?
Yeah.
So it's just like one of those things that just like when it comes to random number generation, there are just some things that happen that are unexpected, because Hearthstone had the same problem when it came to repeating opponents. So it was obviously like a thing, and I still can't really, there are people who are way smarter than me that can explain why even though it's like an equal chance 1 through 8 that you might face this guy 3 times in a row or something, right?
Well,
Like I don't quite understand it, but
Mort has explained it at least at a high level a couple of times, and it's more like true. There's a different perception and actual randomness are what the real differences are. True random does not air quotes feel random sometimes, right? If you
like
play against
in a row,
right, if you play against the same person 8 times in a row, or if you flip a coin and you get heads 10 times in a row, yes, you're not likely to do that, but it can happen, and that's true random. And that's I think I think very few things that we encounter in games that say that are random are actually true random. They're usually a modified set of random that removes some outliers because of that exact thing. Because it's not worth like, well, I played against this guy 5 times in a row. I thought you said it was random. Omega lol. It's like it was actually random. That's just a possibility. That is one of the possible outcomes. You nincompoop.
You don't need to be Nostradamus to understand that.
Right.
Yeah. All right. Are we ready to go into some trade changes?
Real quickly. Yeah, we already talked about the galaxies. Dwarf planets coming in, which we talked about, and then we're removing little legends. So yes, Boop. Let's start it off with some traits.
Star Guardians. Star Guardians have too much of its power budget in the trait. So we're pulling that power out and putting it back into the champions. This should allow some of them to succeed in other comps while maintaining the power of well-built Star Guardian compositions. So the big thing here was that if you wanted like a Sorcerer or Star Guardian comp, your carry wasn't even a Sorcerer or Star Guardian.
Right.
It was Riven. And so that's just a design flaw. Right. And they had openly admitted that, I think, a couple times already. Mm-hmm. So like it's really cool that they're doing it. So the way that they're approaching this instead is making each unit stronger so you can make the decision mostly on Syndra to make a carry, because the starting mana the starting and total mana, I believe, across the board has been buffed for all of the Star Guardians.
That
the trait is nerfed pretty heavily, especially on the second tier. Mm-hmm. So I think the math makes it to where certain characters like Syndra will end up ulting more often, while other characters might get their first ults off first and a little bit of a delay on the second one. There's a lot of interaction here. I'm not one of those Star Guardian players, so like in terms of, I mean, this is also a trait that technically didn't work for half a set.
Yeah.
So I think we're all still still getting our heads around it. Mm-hmm. But I think what this means is like characters like Syndra get way stronger. Characters
Syndra
like
is nutty right now.
Because 40 mana per ult, right? And if you put a blue buff on her, that's down to 30. Protector Syndra is something that people are running. Ooh. It's kind of being run a little bit like Machine Gun Ziggs.
Oh, okay.
It's not as good, as it does take a little while longer for the damage to come through, but it is something people are running, is just Syndra carry. It's definitely been the thing that I've seen the most experimentation with in terms of the PvE.
Syndra carry is pretty nutty. And yes, Phelan in chat is bringing up the fact that Ari did not get a buff here. So Poppy, Zoe, Nico, Syndra, Soraka, and Janna all got mana buffs of various amounts, and then Star Guardian mana share is slightly nerfed at all levels. So, I mean, Syndra is at what I think she was at 40 mana previously in at the beginning of set 3. I think maybe she was 45, but she's at what used to be the magic number of, if I can get 2 blue buffs on this, I'm going to infinite cast, which is insane with Syndra. Or not blue buff, sorry, it used to be Seraphs, right. Now you can't do that with blue buffs, but a blue buff on Syndra is going to be nutty regardless. It's just not going to be infinite orbs. It's going to be just a lot very quickly. So
there's definitely an argument to, I mean, saying that it brings you down to 30 mana, you're only getting 10 extra mana. And maybe that tier can go somewhere else because a lot of people would throw a blue buff on Riven for like a really similar example, but
Right.
it is a little bit of a diminishing return versus like a Victor,
Right.
which is what some people were running a little bit later.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the coolest blue buff users I ever saw was Nico. Who like 1v3'd in a protector comp with a blue buff. Like it was only like I believe the Nico came in an orb and he just happened to have blue buff. It was like gonna go that way, so just put it on the Nico. But dude, that Nico slapped for like 6 or 7 rounds. It was so funny.
Yes.
But it did fall off. But hey, early game possibility, I guess.
Yeah, sell it off and put the item somewhere else later.
Yeah, so basically, just like Phelan says, you're going to learn how to dodge wrenches and balls in this next meta, as Syndra is going to be... I would not be surprised if that changes to a 45 or 50 even, but what Mort said in our chat was there is a comp that is a really good counter to this that was then confirmed by a couple players later on. We'll talk about that when we get there.
Yeah, I think, I mean, so what it is when she casts... She needs 2 auto attacks, right? Because if she has a blue buff, right, she needs 2 auto attacks to then cast again. Of course, if you have now you would need 6 Star Guardians to just because it's distributed. Yeah, I mean she's obviously going to be casting a lot. She does a lot of damage, and the longer the fight goes on, the more damage that she does, et cetera, et cetera. So we've seen Syndra be a premier carry, or at least a like B tier carry in the past.
And just to kind of bring your eyes, protectors are a little, some say are a little strong right now as well. And look at that Nico starting versus total mana, going from 75 to 150 to 25 to 100.
Yeah.
50 less mana.
Yep.
That second ult is going to be coming way quicker, and you're going to get those protector procs off a little bit more. So Nico definitely gets a lot better here. I don't think Nico should ever be a carry champ based off of her design, but it's cool to kind of see them investing in protectors a little bit more, because unless you got your ASOL, there was no reason to run it.
Yeah, they always felt like the sort of... They only ever felt like a linear comp that you went all in on, rather than like, oh, I can run a couple of protectors and actually just use them for my front line. It never really felt like that. It's like you're either doing like tier 3 Xin Zhao and Rakan, or like you're like unhappily running them in your like 6th place comp as you try to get a top 4, but you don't. That's how it always felt.
Nico is another good option too. If you do get your protector spat with an ASOL to kind of put her in and hold items for another protector a little later on, because she's going to be ulting a lot, and that's going to be a good amount of AoE damage plus whatever protector shield if you build the defensive items on her. Like I built a Titan's Resolve on her the other day, and it was awesome. Yeah. So if she's going to be ulting more, and it was in a 6 protector comp, I stole it from one of our EU challengers where they built Warmog super early on everybody. But again, there's a lot more possibilities and an individual flexibility per champion here, because the way that Star Guardians were designed before, it was basically like they had to be together. Right now, Nico's stronger in protector comps, right? Janna is just a stronger unit now, and all 5 cost units need to be. Same thing with Soraka, who's going to slot into a lot of those Mystic comps way better. Even though it's just 5 less mana, it's still going to be sooner. Right? And then you've got Syndra, who now can be a machine gun type. Protector Syndra sounds awesome. So I'm really excited for these changes. I really, really am.
Yeah. I've been a fan of Star Guardians in general since the beginning, and they've done pretty much the full swath of like they're unplayable to they're pretty good. They're like a B tier comp. They're the best comp. They are, they've had the full range here. So I'm wondering where they'll land. Now it seems like at the very least Syndra and by proxy a few of the others are going to be pretty top tier right now, but we'll be talking about those as the weeks go on and we get more usage out of those in the new patch. But a couple other traits got some changes as well. Celestial Healing is going from 1540 99% to 2045 150%. Of course, Celestial getting a pretty big buff there. Cybernetic bonus health and attack damage is getting nerfed at the 3 and 6 levels, not by too much, but by a hair, by about 50 on each. Actually, yeah, 50 health and 5 damage on both the 3 and 6 levels. And then Sorcerer spell power is getting a nerf at the 4 and 6 Sorcerer level, still staying the same at the 2 Sorcerer level. So
yeah, because the Star Guardians got stronger, so they needed to adjust the Sorcerer level.
Yep, which makes sense. We've been seeing a lot of Sorcerer power, and again, it's another one of those. It's another one of those very easily splashable traits, and also just affects your entire comp. And everyone now gets buffed from spell power. So it's not like set 1 where you have a bunch of units that get literally 0 from spell power, or even set 2. I think there were units that didn't get anything from spell power. Every unit is getting at least something from spell power, and it's so easy to fit in a couple of sorcerers that it's just very easy. And then Celestial is a trait that, like, I feel like you forget that you forget exists.
It's a good supportive trait, right?
Yeah. But you're always fine cutting it. You never are like, man, I really need Celestial.
You're never
here.
making that Celestial spat.
Yeah, no. I have before, but only because I had no other items to make.
At 150, though, and with a Xayah buff a little bit further down, we might see Shredder come back. But because it does come back on like trade sector, on like hyper roll and high roll type of situations, where you're rolling a lot in the early game. So that could be a thing. 150% for Ash is a lot, and that's another. I believe that's another team wide stat. So
it is.
Everyone is getting that. So pop in 2 Celestials in for 45%. That's actually pretty substantial over 40, but it's maybe pushing you to reach for that 6, because 150% on your snipers is big.
It's actually a payoff now, which is nice. Before it was just like, yeah, I've got it. I have to run some sort of like, some substandard units to get there. So now the payoff seems like it's worth it for,
because protectors are back, celestial protectors, blah blah blah, healing. There we go.
Yes. Okay. Boop. Talk about tier 1 champs.
All right. So tier 1 champions. Jarvan getting buffs. His health going from 650 to 700. His attack damage going from 50 to 55. His mana pool going from 50 to 100 to 40/80. His ageless standard attack speed bonus, and this speaks to my heart. The AP, the ratio is going to be increased by 0.65, 0.75, 0.85 to 0.75, 0.85, 0.95. Remember, affected by AP.
Jarvan, Deathcap Jarvan incoming. I've been crushed by it so many times now ever since
Deathcap Jarvan with the new Celestial buffs on Ash might mean that you don't need since it's ingrained lifesteal, you could just maybe build Rage Blade or something like it to keep her sustain going, and then you could do Rage Blade, Last Whisper, IE. That sounds really good.
But you don't even need the Rage Blade because Jarvan is giving you the attack speed.
Right. Exactly.
So now you can do another defensive item.
You could go Deathblade, IE, Last Whisper.
Yep. Oh, man.
That's the correct answer. Anyway.
Man.
Xayah attack speed going from 0.8 to 0.9, getting really close to where she was before.
Yeah.
I'll do the tier 2s, too.
Okay.
Mordekaiser health, 650 to 700. Mordekaiser indestructible damage, which is that ult he has, 50, 75, 125 to 75, 100, 200. Rakan health going from 600 to 700, and the Yasuo total mana getting 90 to 80. I'm sure you guys are realizing a lot of buffs on this patch.
A lot of buffs to protectors. Holy crap. And Mordekaiser as well. I mean, Mordekaiser was kind of a... ever since, especially since Nautilus came out, it's like, it's like the Toy Story meme of I don't want to play with you anymore. Just like throwing the Mordekaiser on the ground for the new Buzz Lightyear Nautilus.
But Blevins, the big thing here is that there's a trait that a lot of people are thinking is a little bit of a dark horse, which is Dark Star coming up. So maybe that's where we're going to see that power budget kind of go in. That we're taking him away from Vanguards and adding him into Dark Star.
And Jarvan too.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jarvis. I mean, Darkstar Protector is. I don't know. Maybe that's a thing. But yes, let's go into the tier 3s, and there's a lot of changes here. Ashe health goes up 50 up to 650. Ashe attack speed going up 0.05 to 0.85. Going up by 0.05 up to 0.85. Ashe's enchanted crystal arrow damage going from 200, 275, 550 to 200, 300, 600. So a little bit of a buff on the tier 2 and tier 3 Ashe.
Really big.
Yeah. Ashe enchanted crystal arrow stun duration is going from a flat 2 seconds at all levels to 2, 3, 4 seconds. So a tier 2 Ashe is getting an additional second, a 50% increase on stun duration at tier 2, the most common level that you're going to be using her at. So that is huge. Ezreal attack damage is going from 60 down to 50, and Ezreal's starting mana is going from 50 down to 30. Holy crap. I'm going to be seeing a lot of Ezreal casts.
Ezreal is the utility carry right now, so they're just really leaning into that by taking away some of his power budget and putting it into his EMP.
I like it. He's going to be super annoying. Great. Karma Inspire Shield is going from 250, 400, 800 shield to 300, 450, 900. So pretty big buff at all levels there. Another Darkstar buff. The attack speed bonus for Karma's shield is also going from 50, 75, 125 to 70, 90, 150%. So more buffs at all levels for Karma. Nico's health is going from 800 up to 850, and Nico's armor is going from 45 up to 50. So another protector buff as well as the Star Guardian and Nico getting a little beefier.
In addition to the mana changes.
Exactly. Shaco. His total mana is going from 80 down to 70. Another Darkstar buff. Syndra's unleashed power damage per orb is going from 100, 125, 200 to 100, 140, 220. And this is per orb. I don't know the numbers on the orbs, but there's a lot of them, and there's more every time. So this actually scales up. Like the amount of damage that this is doing overall is actually scales over time. So huge. Vayne health going from 550 down to 500, and Vayne's attack damage going from 60 down to 50.
She's still good.
Yeah, still good, but a little bit of a love tap with the nerf bat there. And then Vi's assault and battery damage is going from 400, 600, 1200 to 350, 550, 1100. So yeah, say yes to protectors, say yes to Darkstar, say no to cybernetics.
they're all right.
Yeah, they're adjusted.
Vayne was. Remember when we talked about Vayne when we first saw her? I was like, this is not okay.
There's something wrong with this. I'm smelling something potentially busted here.
Yeah, the aggro with the stealth. That's where the problem is. So they're trying to make her a little bit more vulnerable and trying to take the power away from the Last Whisper IE build because that's literally all you needed on her. Because with her tumble, it was a flat % increase on the IE plus Last Whisper damage. I mean, she was pushing like 800 to like 1200 damage per tumble. And someone like Vayne shouldn't one shot like that, in my opinion, and she still will. Even with this 10 less damage. So maybe it'll take 1 or 2 extra auto attacks, but let's be real, she's going to tumble out of the way anyway. It's like all of the bad MF juju we got. They put the opposite in Vayne, because I have seen Vaynes do some of the most amazing plays that I wish I could do in a real game, right? Like literally corner themselves away from a chum the water in the one space that it wasn't hitting, right? Like it's just sometimes that happens, and hopefully happens a little less often. The Vi change is a little interesting. Maybe we're dealing with that brawler comp a little bit because her ult was a little bit more of an execute than anything else. So maybe they're trying to push her more into a place where she's going to be taking a little bit more damage and isn't going to take because since she's going to be executing a carry a lot of the time or keeping a carry down, this is going to bring her back, but not necessarily something I thought about as a problem.
Yeah,
So.
I don't think it was as much as Vi is a problem. It's just a like how we're taking a direct assault on cybernetics with their actual buff and also at their main carry Vayne. How can we make a small change to nerf cybernetics without really impacting it much more? It's just like another little like, and we added one extra thing, and it's Vi because she's
kind
not
of
like
got the scuff out.
Yeah, just it's like
well,
it's like the last finishing touch of the artist. Just like, and let me put that there. Yeah.
Yeah, this we need a little happy tree here.
Yeah.
But Irelia got buffed, so the issue with Cybernetics 2 was just like Vayne as a 3-cost unit was a better carry than Irelia was. 9 times out of 10. Especially since the game kind of just like got taken out of Irelia's kind of play style. Because Teemo was popular there for a sec, and all she did was kill her team by dashing over the mushroom. And so we'll talk about those Irelia changes right now.
Yes.
Tier 4 champions. The Chum to Waters damage, 450, 600, 5,000 to 400, 550, 4,000. That's a really great change. Fizz is a contested pick.
Yeah. Well, and one thing that's notable here is we usually only see the tier 3 damage adjusted to make it some ridiculous number like 5,000. So it is telling that it is going from 5,000 down to 4,000. Yeah. Like there is a reason. Like, oh, we need you to actually be able to survive this because getting a tier 3 Fizz is actually not out of the question here. So we need it to not be completely unbeatable because we don't want that to always happen.
And of any of the pilots that are going to ult, Fizz is the one that's going to get you the win, right?
Yes.
It's by far the most impactful. Irelia health going from 800 to 900. That's a pretty beefy buff for someone like Irelia. Irelia attack damage going up 15 from 70 to 85. So let me keep going. Irelia armor 35 to 50. I'm an Irelia main in regular League of Legends, so this does make me happy. Irelia magic resist going from 20 to 40. Blade surge damage, which is her ultimate, 175, 250, 500 to 225, 250, 500. So that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 buffs on Irelia.
She tanky. She thick.
Yeah, she and doing a lot more damage.
Yeah.
So you could. She is very close, in my opinion, to just build on Nara territory, where almost every item, I think you could argue as an item that would be good on Irelia, based off of what these stats are showing me.
She's one of the best Thieves Gloves holders. Like, it's just, you can just put your Thieves Gloves on Irelia, like, early to mid game if you spike an early one, and she's going to get you a lot of value out of that.
Right? Hey, you want to build Warmogs on her now? Well, she's tankier. Oh, you want to build something like Rage Blade on her now? Well, she's going to be doing more base attack damage. Or do you want to build IE Last Whisper? Cool, you can. Do you want to build Rabadons for the 250 or 225 at rank 1? Now, right? So the actual chart, the Blade Surge is going to be doing the damage. Lots of options, and then she's going to be able, and she's already a trip in terms of synergy. So she's going to be able to, I think, fit into a lot of different team comps and really compete with Riven on the Blade Master front. So this was good for her. Well, and obviously she needed the help because these are pretty big buffs. Irelia armor goes from 35 to 50.
Yeah. She's actually tanky now, which is awesome because I've always been like, well, I like want to put her in the front line because I want her to like take a little bit more damage and start ulting, but also like sometimes she's just a piece of paper and dies. So now it's like you can like more realistically and reliably frontline her, especially if you get cybernetic buff on her, you put some defensive items on her. I think that's an interesting line to do too, is like just put the Titan's Resolve on her and like 2 defensive items and just let her be the like slow like Leviathan tank.
Yeah, and steal aggro with the Blade Surges.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Totally a thing worth exploring. I mean, her magic resist doubled.
Yeah. Huge.
So you like there's no reason to build magic resist on her. So I mean 85 per anyway. Because look, Jhin attack damage is the same amount.
Yeah.
So
she's doing as much damage as Jin, at least on the base
on
attack.
the first 3 shots, right?
Yeah.
So Jin attack speed, so Jin attack damage going from 80 to 85. Jin attack speed 0.85.91.1 to 0.9.951.2. That's in effect of that 4th shot.
Yep.
Jin 4th shot damage 244. Oh, that's funny. I never noticed.
Yeah,
244, 344, 444, going to 350, 500. So another big.
How do you not make it 354, 504? Come on. That's an oversight.
Attack speed going from 0.75 to 0.7.
Yep.
Riven Shield 225, 375, 1000 to 200, 350, 1000. Victor Death Ray damage, the second part, 250, 400, 1500 to 200, 325, 1500. Pretty major nerfs there.
Yeah, the interesting thing here is that they've taken the approach this patch for the most part of we're going to buff a bunch of things that aren't the top, and then we're going to do some like little adjustments down for the things that are currently top. Yeah. Jinx only getting a 0.05 attack speed nerf. Like Jinx was, like you said, like the most played carry essentially in the last patch. So you'd expect nerf here, nerf here, nerf here, nerf here. Just, nope, we're going to take everything that was like around Jinx. Like the Jinx is at the center. We're going to take the one layer out and then the next layer out. And we're going to buff big here. We're going to buff medium here. And then we're going to take little nerfs right in the middle on here. So I think theoretically, this is a very interesting way to adjust the patch, and it seems like if everything is kind of close, you just need to adjust a couple of knobs. It's like you don't want to like put the huge band stamp on Jinx and then all of a sudden there's a power vacuum and now Aurelia is the biggest thing ever. It's like we're taking Aurelia, who was like really a second class carry, and we're bumping her up to first class. We're taking the S tier above first class carries, we're bumping them down to first class, and we've got like maybe now there's like 5 or 6 A tier champs instead of 2 S tier carries and 5 B tier carries. Now we're trying to make everything sort of A minus ish, or maybe even A plus ish. Maybe there's some A plus and there's a gradation of A, but I think that is a better feel for the meta than S, skip A entirely, or maybe there's 1A and then B and C tier.
I think the biggest change here is, they could say, what can we do to bring Jinx down? We can nerf her, right? But are there any things in terms of design that we can help the fantasy? And I think they did a really great job here dealing with Jinx, because it would have been really easy to nerf her damage. But what they did was they buffed Irelia and they buffed Shaco and they buffed Jin, right? All people who could potentially take her out. Right. And while people were getting a lot better at positioning against Jinx, sometimes the Aurelia just never got there. Sometimes the carry that is literally in the game to counter someone like Jinx wasn't able to do their job because of some other things. Right now, they're going to be able to accomplish that job a little bit more consistently. Maybe not like a 70-30. We want that to be as 50-50 as possible, right? We want it to be, Jinx focuses, the Irelia first gets the win, or the opposite, the Irelia gets onto the Jinx and then everything changes, right? We're going to get more of those situations, which is what makes TFT so fun. And I like this style. The hard part is if we keep going like this, then that's when we start getting power creep. So there's definitely a balance, but this is definitely a good kind of once over to change a lot, because it has been so stale. So the community was looking for a big change. They want totally different things to be good, and they're giving that to us. And instead of making the other things bad, they just made the other things better. So we'll see how that affects it.
Very interested to see how this one shapes out, and hopefully it remains dynamic for sure. So all right, let's move on to the final section here. I guess there's really not that many items, so this is kind of like the final section here. Tier 5 champions. Aurelion Sol's mana drain going from 15-25-50 to 10-15-50. What's that?
Just take it out.
Yeah. No, I still like it. And then Aurelion Sol's mobilize the fleet, which is his attack. is going from 110, 150, 1000 to 90, 150, 1000. So really just a tier 1 nerf there for Aurelion Sol's damage. And then Janna's attack speed bonus is going from 100, 150, 500 to 80, 125, 500. So nerf there for the attack speed bonus that Janna provides. And then Urgot is getting a lot of changes. So they're saying Urgot's got a lot of changes, and so he gets his own little section. From a balance perspective, Urgot is currently one of the weaker 5-cost champions. However, he feels bad to play against, and there's not enough incentive for the Urgot player to level him up. So we talked, I think, 2 or 3 episodes extensively about Urgot and how they are choosing to balance him and how
we actually talked about this exact thing.
Yes, yes,
so
we did.
We should be very proud of ourselves.
Yes, I am. Urgot's armor going from 30 up to 40. Magic resist going from 20 up to 40. Attack range going from 660 down to 420.
Blaze it.
Nice. Starting Urgot's mana going from 40-90 up to 50-100, so slight nerf there. His Fear Beyond Death targeting is going from farthest within attack range to just straight farthest. And his Fear Beyond Death now hits the first enemy it collides with instead of always hitting its intended target. So now
feels so much more fair. It's like Caitlyn's ult.
And yeah, exactly. And it also, like, whether it's power level or whatnot is fair or not, it just felt weird to, like, oh, you know, his hook, like, cartoon, like it moves around past the units that it's actually
like
going through. Yeah, just like it swerves around and then hits what he's going for, which makes little sense.
It's thematically more appropriate.
Yes,
for sure.
yes. Okay. The damage is now preventable, which means a unit with Guardian Angel will revive. That's a feels good for, I guess, the Guardian Angel players. Magic reduction per cast is going from 10, 20, 90 to 20, 30, 100. So actually, we'll get a little bit of a buff on the mana reduction. And time to reel enemies in now scales with star level. The reel duration is going from 1.5 seconds total to 3 seconds, 2 seconds, 1 second. So that first one at level 1, he's going to take twice as long to reel the target in. So, I mean, not the biggest change, because once he hooks them, they're coming in and they're immobilized. They're not able to do anything. But you have an extra 1.5 seconds at level 1 for Urgot to actually kill him or stun him or interrupt it.
The only thing that we ever got close was Slash Bros.
Yes.
To be able to just burst him down. Like, the targeting got there, and then, you know, you got the Blade Master procs, and he just dies.
Yep.
Right? Rivens with Wind Slash, old school Irelia would probably, like, count in this, but two things before we move on that I think is really cool. Number one is the line, time to reel the enemy now scales with star level.
Yes.
Something they've started doing in regular League of Legends was make certain cast time scale with something like attack speed. So, like, for example, Jinx in League of Legends proper for Summoner's Rift, her W scales with attack speed. So it'll shoot faster. The projectile will go out faster based off of the attack speed. And I think there is a lot of freedom to try stuff like that in TFT. Right? Maybe... I'm having a hard time kind of like thinking off the top of my head something that could scale with star level in terms of ability. But this is definitely
Caitlyn
like right up there.
Caitlyn would make sense, right? Like if her alt, like, time to charge scaled with attack speed or something, or with star level. I mean, the only thing we really see with attack speed scaling is Jhin, right?
Jhin. Yep. Yeah. So all that stuff, and this is what's so exciting. All that stuff is still available to experiment with. Right.
Yeah, exactly.
And we probably honestly will see something like that at some point in the future. But they always sneak these mechanics, like 1 or 2 of them in to a certain path to, like, exactly, just like the Teemo shrooms. Right.
Exactly. Yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting because and this is a little bit deep divey, but I won't go too deep into it because we're nearing the end of the show. In Magic the Gathering, at least traditionally, the last few years have been a little bit different. But in the old days, you would have what's called a core set, and there'd be one a year, and it was like a more beginner-friendly set. all of the cards were relatively basic in terms of what they did. You wouldn't have like a crazy amount of like different or wacky abilities. And they were sort of marketed, and they used to all be reprints of cards. So like it was very much a, hey, you're looking to start playing Magic, use this set to help you start playing. Use this to help you learn the core, hence why it's called the core set of the game. And TFT, and then the other sets of the year would be as wacky and crazy and convoluted and in depth as they wanted to, because they were advanced sets. That's what they called them and marketed them as. So you could have these really weird niche interactions that a brand new player might not get, but it's like, we're not making this for the brand new player. You ascend to this point. TFT, there's only one set out, right? So things like something like scaling with, let's just say attack speed makes a little bit more sense. Let's say there is a champion that for whatever reason, thematically, their damage scaled with magic resist. That is something that doesn't make intuitive sense right off the bat. You would obviously need to you would need to read the champion's ability, but if it was like, this champion gets, their attack damage scales with magic resist, or their ability damage scales with magic resist, that's something that if you're brand new to TFT and you're not like paying super close attention to everything, you're going to be like, why does this unit that seems like it should be a carry not actually doing any damage? I don't get it. Or like, why do all the guides I look at say I should be putting attack speed on Jin, etc.? It's like, there's a fine line to walk with a TFT set where like you want to have cool, interesting, complex abilities and interactions like that for players like us. Readable. Yeah. The players like us that just want it to be as cool as possible, and we don't care how complex it is. We'll figure it out. But there's also the mobile players, the people who aren't playing today, but are going to find out about the game in a month, in a week, or whatever. And there's the fact that there's only one TFT set at a time kind of makes it so you have to have some amount of basicness, or basic. It needs to be somewhat basic.
You're getting there.
I'm getting there.
You're getting there.
You need to have some amount of the basics in the set that is being played so that you're not completely scaring away new players. I do think that is a really cool idea to do something like that. I just am, as much as I want it, I worry a little bit about things like that. But in one-off champions, that's great. And you don't really want it to be like a whole thing where it's like, this is the wacky set 4 is the wacky set where armor does damage now.
Like the synergies scaled with attack speed now.
This is Metal World. Set 4 is Metal World, where damage is armor and armor is like. Yeah. So,
and just to finish it out, 2 item changes.
Yep.
Giant Slayer now does pre-mitigation damage that matches its damage type, physical or magic. And then Ionic Spark damage resist shred going for 50 to 40 was kind of holding on, I think, a little too far into the late game. And it gets kind of brought back. Everyone was building Ionic Spark.
Yeah, it was just an auto build.
It was just a solid item, and
yep.
We all know how I feel about this item ever since set 1.
Yep, you have been very adamant about your disdain for this item for a long time.
Yeah, and so I think we're in a good spot now.
Yeah.
The other thing that I thought was actually really funny was Luli polymorphed units will no longer hop around while stunned. I thought that was part of the move.
I thought that was part of the move too.
Yeah, no, apparently they're supposed to stay in that hex. But yeah, Luli polymorphed units no longer hop around while stunned.
Huh.
That's the bug fix.
Oh, wow.
Yep.
Interesting. Well,
yep.
That's That's the patch.
Yeah.
That's it. That's the patch. Yeah, overall, I think a really nice shakeup. I think even though the previous patch was a little bit solved or stale, and Mort on stream has even said that and agreed with the sort of the criticism there, I think it's still in a good spot. And again, like, a lot of it being solved is at higher levels. If you're at gold or silver, like, you know, you can still play whatever you want. But once you start getting into you know, diamond, master, challenger, etc., it's like, well, yes, everyone is running Jinx every time, and if you get Jinx, you're like heavily favored to top 4, etc., etc. So yeah, I think this is a really good patch overall, and it should at the very least shake things up. I'm hoping that we're not going to get into the same spot that we got to before, where it gets solved super quickly, and instead we have more of a, you know, rock paper scissors esque meta where you can, even if someone gets the quote unquote best comp, you have some counterplay to it. So
yep, totally agree.
Cool. All right, Boop. I think that's going to be it for us for this week. Where can people find you on the internet when you're not here jabbering on about TFT?
Twitter.com/BooposaurusRex, Twitch.tv/BooposaurusRex.
Have you actually fired up the stream?
I have once or twice.
Nice.
Yeah, things could be better. And then just like in general, like in terms of like the setup and like slides and stuff like that, I wish I could just have more, but I think that's kind of just like the world, right? And then give me more. I need all the content. And you can find me on Fight Night Rising every Thursday on Giant Slayer TV.
Yes. Of course, you can find the show on Twitter at LIL Legends Pod. The best place to find all of the links for the show is at discord.me/Little Legends Podcast. You can find me on Twitter at _Blevins on Twitter. We do the show live on Tuesdays, twitch.tv/theblevins, and you can find me streaming mostly Legends of Runeterra during the week at the same Twitch, and you can find me on Fridays on Giant Slayer TV as well for LOR Fight Nights. But that is going to be it for this week. We'll be back next week. No, sorry, we're going to be back in 2 weeks to talk about Legends. Oh my God. To talk about Teamfight Tactics. And next week, I'm not going to edit it. Next week, we'll be here in the Discord to play some TFT. So make sure you're joining the Discord if you want to play. But until then, we will see you for sure in 2 weeks, if not next week, to play some more Teamfight Tactics.